can exercise actually improve cognitive function, particularly chronic exercise when doing it for weeks and months on end?
Absolutely. People often say to me or ask me, I work with kids to older people, but I've worked with older folks more often than most other populations, but college students, kids, and so forth. And they often ask me, oh, so it slows down cognitive decline with aging, right? No, that's not right. What it does is actually boost cognition, memory, reasoning, problem solving, attention. Uh, Forever? No. There's really no free lunch here. If you stop doing it, it goes back to where it was, and there's animal work that suggests that, and human work.
Okay.
So as long as you keep up an exercise regimen, you
Mm.
can almost think of it as shifting the intercept up. Older people tend to
Okay.
decline and
Yeah.
have a certain slope. Some people decline more quickly than other people. If you have a disease like Alzheimer's,
Mm.
clearly you decline more quickly than if you don't. But what it does is shift the whole function up, is what it
Mm.
seems to do. And, we've looked at that both with measures of brain structure and function using
Mm-hmm.
MRI and fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging. And we've seen it with behavior. We've seen it with behavioral measures of aspects of memory and attention and reasoning and fluid intelligence and a variety of other things. So it really does. One way to think about it is as you get older, you do see naturally cognitive decline. I'm 71,
Mm.
so I'm certainly in the
Okay.
older group.
Yep.
And you do see cognitive decline. But what it does, one way to think about it is it pushes you back up your own personal trajectory to where you were
Mm.
years ago. Um,
Mm.
and so it's not just a matter of abating decline, but it actually improves cognition. And for kids, it tends to push them along a little faster than they might have been pushed along. When I was a young man, we used to talk about dumb jocks. Jocks are athletes. And
Yeah.
I was an athlete in the United States.
Okay.
I was a track and field runner. I was a pole vaulter,
Mm.
which is good for your health, running, of course, aerobic exercise. And I was also a
Mm.
boxer and a martial
Oh.
artist. Not good for your brain health. So avoid head injuries if at all possible,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's one way to abate cognitive decline. But even for those of us who did things that weren't so good for our brain, like me, staying physically active throughout your lifespan, and that changes. Somebody your age has to work a lot harder than somebody my age, because I'm not going to do wind sprints anymore. I don't know if they call them wind sprints in Australia, but run fast, a 100-meter dash.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
I wouldn't be doing that anymore. I did that as a young man, and I pole vaulted, and I did a variety of things. But as you get older, you do other things, but they're still aerobic. You might walk fast. You might ride your bicycle pretty quickly. You might swim. So there are a whole bunch of things you can do. You can play racket sports. A very popular racket sport in the United States now. I don't know if it's true in Australia. It's called pickleball, and it's like tennis, but it's a smaller court. And
Yep.
I see older folks in their 80s playing. That's fantastic.
Yep. Yep. Which is fantastic because I mean, not too long ago it was thought that after early life neurogenesis didn't really occur and the trajectory was just down, down, down from there. I think only in the 60s with Joseph Altman, the father of neurogenesis. Prior to that, it was this train of thought really wasn't there.
Yeah, it was a one-way street, is what we believed, right? It was
Mm.
all downhill as we got older. In fact, it was
Yeah.
all downhill. How old are you now?
29. 29.
Okay, it was downhill for another year. You have about another year or so of good
Oh.
time, and then it would have been downhill for you. But you're right. Many things continue to happen, and it's not just new neurons. You mentioned neurogenesis. It's also new
Mm.
synapses or connections. It's new
Yep.
capillary beds in the brain. It's new. It's additional neurotransmitters like dopamine,
Mm.
and you can look at that now with positron emission tomography and other technologies. And it's nerve growth factors that kick off this molecular cascade to produce things like new connections or synapses as well as new neurons. New neurons are very selective, as you probably know. I mean, the good evidence is mostly in one area of the hippocampus called the dentate gyrus, maybe the olfactory bulb, but not throughout the brain. But that's fine because many of these other changes do occur pretty much throughout the brain. And we know that because there's been a good, almost 40 years of research with animals where the histology can be done. And then you can verify, you can count neurons, you can count synapses, you can look at angiogenesis, which is building new capillaries in the brain. And all of these things, some of these things we can look at with the techniques we use with humans, but they're not as sensitive as the techniques we use with animals, of course. They're getting more better. So